That's all from the morning announcements. Have a great day at Bel Air and the surrounding areas.
Everybody struggles to get up in the morning. But what if you're someone who every decision feels like that struggle to get up in the morning? Everything. Every morning, somewhere in a classroom near you, there's a student sitting next to you, doing everything right, honor roll, extracurriculars, smile at the right places, always happy to help on group projects. Maybe they're even the teacher's favorite. But when reality sets in, it's all just them scraping by barely, plagued by procrastination, not being able to get things done on time, always cutting things down to the wire, but they're just good enough to keep things rolling. But when will it all collapse? And none of this is because they don't care, not because they're lazy, but because something inside them, something no one can see, makes starting, continuing, finishing anything feel less like a task and more like lifting a car off the ground with your bare hands with no help. Procrastination is a brain-level battle between the limbic system, which is what controls your emotions and your pleasure-seeking, and the prefrontal cortex, which is what's responsible for rational thought and planning. When a task triggers negative emotions like anxiety or boredom, the limbic system overrides the prefrontal cortex, favoring immediate mood repair, avoidance, over long-term goals. Researchers sometimes describe this state as the intention-action gap. The person intends to act, the action does not follow, and critically, this gap is accompanied not by relief or pleasure, but by a rising tide of shame, self-reclamation, and anxiety that paradoxically makes beginning even harder. This experience has a name, several in fact. Executive dysfunction appears as a central feature of ADHD, one of the most commonly diagnosed yet commonly misunderstood neurological conditions. It appears in anxiety disorders, in depression, in the autism spectrum conditions. In the aftermath of trauma, it can appear with no formal diagnosis at all as well. What it rarely appears as is visible to the people around the person experiencing it. There's a concept in cognitive psychology called task aversion, a phenomenon where the emotional weight attached to a task, perfectionism, fear of failure, past experiences of shame, far exceeds the actual difficulty of the task itself. The brain registers the task not as work, but as a threat. The potential of the unbegun. It is in some ways the central paradox of executive dysfunction. The imagination is often vivid, capable, ambiguous. It is the bridge between imagining and doing that collapses. Studies conducted across secondary schools in multiple countries consistently find that between 30 and 50% of students report significant difficulty initiating tasks, not as a matter of motivation, but as a genuine, distressing inability to begin. Nearly 40% report regularly staying up past midnight to complete work they had all day to do, not because they're irresponsible, but because for many of them, the urgency of a deadline is the only neurological trigger powerful enough to temporarily override the initiation block. This is sometimes called deadline-dependent functioning. The brain, understimulated by the distant threat of a task, finally activates when the threat becomes immediate. It is not a strategy, it is not laziness rewarded, it is a coping mechanism born of necessity. And it comes with enormous costs to sleep, health, to self-perception, and eventually to the quality of the work itself. The invisibility of executive dysfunction, particularly in high-achieving students, is not accidental. These students have often developed what clinicians call compensatory strategies. They work twice as hard in half the time to produce the results that look effortless. They mask their internal experiences with external performance, and the better they are at masking, the less likely anyone is to take a closer look. It might be like straight down from right here.
Oh, we gotta get somebody.
Artlist.io.
The worst part is that
It looks good.
it might be there. It's like, actually it might be. The student staring at a blank page, who is not distracted, who is actually trying harder than anyone can see. The student who turns in work at the last second, not from carelessness, but from a neurological firing pattern that requires emergency to activate. The student whose perfect planner is a piece of theater. The student who has been told again and again that they just need to apply themselves. Who has been applying themselves with everything they have, and still finds the distance between their desk and done impossibly long. If you recognize any of this, staring at the ceiling when you wake up, unable to get out of bed, a performative planner you don't actually use, if this feels familiar to you, there's something important to understand. You're not necessarily lazy. You might not be making excuses. You're not failing to try. You may be carrying something that has a name, that has research behind it, that has people who know how to help. And if you live with someone who exhibits these traits, and if you teach them, parent them, sit beside them at lunch, know that the performance is not the whole story. A polished planner doesn't mean that you're able to stay on task. Good grades don't mean that you're having an easy time in school. Sometimes the most important question you can ask the capable kid is the simplest one. How are you actually doing? Are you all right?
Artlist.io.